I'm gonna talk about tension-filled, suspenseful games in this video, right? And please like, share, subscribe. I don't know. I think most likely this is gonna be like a part 1, part 2, part 3 style video. The first one here is gonna be the Child of Eden. So the Child of Eden is literally like this cool ass arcade game, very cool arcade game, epic. Child of Eden, it's meant more for PlayStation Move or I think VR. If you ever played the game Hyper Void, this game is very similar to that. Now, Child of Eden is very suspenseful and tension filled because one of the music, the projectiles, and the pattern and recognition like on screen, and the level design. Now, Child of Eden, literally, there's projectiles coming after you. There's different color of projectiles, and the purple projectiles, they're the ones that will do damage to you, and there's a certain kind of offensive weapon to take those out. It gets very suspenseful too because the music, it implements the music and the rhythm with the transformation like of the stages. So each stage, the game is not very long, but each level, it's kind of implementing like with the music and the song, and especially mission 4 had a very unique style of music, and the soundtrack in the game is really gets you like in the rhythm of the game. Especially later on in the game, it gets tricky and difficult, and you really gotta pay attention to the rhythm and how the game kind of wants you, to play. One that really comes to mind is a Wipeout Pulse. So Wipeout Pulse is a game where literally it's a fast-paced style arcade racing game for the PSP. And because it's on the PSP, right? Because you only had one joystick, so that meant that the turning controls you had to literally use the left or right button, like on the PSP. So turning was tricky, and the AI is very smart. So the AI competitors, like in the race, they will easily overtake you if you make a mistake. And some of the race areas are very narrow and very tight, so turning was tricky. And you have to time how you turn very soon. You have to time your turns exactly, and if you're not used to the controls, it'll get very difficult. I'm not sure if there's a way to change the controls, but Wipeout Pulse, for a PSP game, it is beautiful. Like presentation wise and visually, it is very beautiful. But it is also a very fast paced style game, and with some very tight time trials and time restraints in some of the challenges and arcade modes, it gets even more suspenseful and tricky. Ghost Runner. This is probably the most difficult game I played. I did cover this game before, but Ghost Runner, and if you're on the PS5 and if you're looking for a difficult kind of first-person platformer game, definitely pick this one up. Now, Ghost Runner is very tension-filled because, again, it is very difficult. Literally, you're like this kind of, like a cyborg, kind of with this cool-ass blade, this futuristic blade, and there's a lot of wall running in the game, there's a lot of platforming in the game, there are some puzzles in the game, and you literally slice, through enemies. Now, literally, enemies' bullets will kill you in one hit, so literally any hit will kill you instantly. The game has constant checkpoints, and it is treated as like a trial and error style game. So you're constantly learning from your mistakes and getting better. But the wall running, really, the wall running and the platforming too as well, and the puzzles, you gotta time everything kind of perfectly to get to the next area. There's like this kind of this air dodge ability or this air dash ability, which makes you go from one platform to the other easier. But man, it gets very difficult, especially there's a middle part of the game where it's probably the most difficult mission in the game I ever played. Another one is going to be A Plague Tale Innocence. Now this is going to be, unlike the last two, this one is slower pace game, kind of adventure style, kind of like this medieval fiction game. Plague Tale Innocence, why it gets so suspenseful is the rat swarms. Playing through this game, I almost got literally a rat phobia. And if you don't like rats, I don't play this game. But this game, literally there's like this kind of rat plague going on, and then fire is only a defense against it, right? Fire is only, literally you're only a defense against it through the gameplay. There's this part of the game where there's like literally thousands of rats in one area, and you have to get from, literally through this area without getting, without getting eaten. You literally learn the patterns like of the rats, and there's a certain kind of bait. So there's like rat bait that literally attracts rats away from you, right? And but it got very intense, very 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 intense, especially near the end of the game where there's like millions of rats in one area, and it just becomes, literally crazy, insane. Another one's gonna be A Pursuit Force Extreme Justice. This is like a game where there's many genres in one. And if you're looking for a PSP game, very impressive. One of the probably the most impressive PSP game I played. Now Pursuit Force Extreme Justice, it's like a racing game. It's like an action filled shooting game. It has a police chases, etc. And it gets very tension filled because it has very tight time trials, tight time, restraints where you have to complete a certain objective in a certain time, and the game doesn't make it easy, right? Because it's obviously like an older game, so older development, but a very difficult, like in terms of some of the levels. And there's like bosses where you're literally like in this kind of armored vehicle, and then you gotta take out the bigger armored vehicle in a certain specific amount of time. There's other ones where you're literally driving away from a bigger vehicle before your vehicle gets destroyed. Another one here is going to be the Atari Classics. Now, mainly because of one game, right? Mainly because of Missile, a command. This is many games in one, many games. Missile Command is literally a game where you have, I think it's like 8 different anti-aircraft cannons, or, a railgun cannons. And there's projectiles falling from the sky, and there's enemy kind of spaceship jets shooting at you. Now, you have to time how you use the cannons perfectly, right? So you have to time how you use them, and literally you have to hit at the point where the a projectile is gonna hit before the projectile destroys a certain city. So there's like cities that you have to protect, and it gets insanely challenging, very 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 challenging, because you have to watch out for like 10 different projectiles, as well as the jet itself. And keep in mind, this is a game like probably from the 90s or 80s, kind of remade for the PSP, but it is a very tricky style game. And you also had other games in this one where you had to turn the PSP towards like a portrait orientation in order to play the game. So that made it even more tricky. Another one is gonna be, more so multiple games is gonna be the Dead Space games. Really, the Dead Space, like all of them, really. Very tension filled, mainly because of the sheer horror, the gruesomeness of the game, and they really wanted to. They really made like the perfect space horror games. Especially at the remake. The remake, because they kind of redesigned like some of the kind of graphics. Graphically it looks so polished, and the gruesomeness you can see it even more. And I hope one day they also remake Dead Space 2. Dead Space as well, right? Some of the crazy like behind the scenes horror that you experience on places like the Ichimura spaceship, and it gets attention filled because sometimes you'll run out of ammo. With most horror games or any like zombie games, you run out of ammo, and you have to conserve, for example, stasis ability, or the a kinetic ability to take out certain enemies. And the game at this base is not like a very hard game, but it gets tension filled, right? Very tension filled mainly because of the space horror, and just being in this sheer environment where literally anything can kill you. And space is a very dangerous place. If you're not careful, you'll shoot like a window, and then the vacuum of space will literally push you out, right? It'll literally kill you, right? So you gotta be very careful. A Crash Bandicoot 4, and I guess Crash Bandicoot, you can also add the Insane Trilogy in it as well. A Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, is really difficult. This one I find was more difficult than the previous, and then the remake. Now, Crash Bandicoot 4, they implemented power-ups, anti-gravity power-up, the time freeze power-up, the infinite spin power-up, etc. And there's one where it's like a platform switching, so you can literally switch platforms or certain boxes on and off. Now you gotta time. What makes the game more difficult, because you not only have to deal with the platform, you have to time the use of these power-ups. And with the fact that your jump, literally, if you don't time your jump, you'll die, right? You'll fall to your death. Or sometimes there'll be a certain trap, right? Like a spike trap, or like an enemy with that's in the way, and it gets very tricky. Now this one, it gets very suspenseful too, because you also get to play as the villains, and some of the villains in the previous Crash Bandicoot games, N Cortex for example, and some of their levels too, like, are also tricky, and the bosses in the game, ooh, these bosses in the game are insane. A super creative level design and super creative projectile patterns. And there's one boss where I died 30 times. It's like, oh my god, like, it's like once you get to like 20 deaths, it's like, wow, that's a lot. But yeah, Crash Bandicoot definitely. And the last one's gonna be Pacific Rift. Sorry, MotorStorm Pacific Rift. Mainly because of the terrains, the different terrains, right? So there's like earth-based tracks, there's fire-based race tracks, and there's like water, and then there's air. And you kind of, there's many different classes of vehicles: monster trucks, dirt bikes, ATVs, buggies, there's sports vehicles, muscle vehicles, heavy vehicles, heavy trucks, etc. And with the game, you basically, as you get further, you unlock more of these different classes and more vehicles within each class. And but it is so, especially if you play air, like an air-based kind of race, it gets so tricky, right? Trying to time everything, and you have like your margin for error decreases and the further you get, so you gotta make less mistakes in each race in order to win it. And it has a certain requirements where you have to finish. It's like in some difficulties or races, you gotta finish top 4, top 3 in order to progress. That's the only way to progress. Or there's like a bronze, silver, gold medal. And also the soundtrack too as well. The soundtrack and some of the vehicles, if you're on, some are literally, there's a limitation, so there's only it only requires certain vehicles per kind of racetrack, alright? So certain racetracks only require certain vehicles, and it can be, for example, it can be hard to drive, say, like a truck, like a big kind of a Peterbilt truck on like an off-road dirt track, right? Because literally you're too heavy, and to get speed advantage like in that race is tricky. So yeah, tension, feel, suspenseful games. Please like and subscribe. Thank you.